The U.S. Army is expanding its recruiting pool by raising the maximum enlistment age. The maximum age to enlist in the Army is currently 35, but it's now going up to 42. And people with just one marijuana-related conviction will be allowed to enlist.
Hey, what is up, everybody? It's your boy Evan Trevino, and first and foremost, thank you for the 150, man. I'm so appreciative of it. All 150 of y'all that are here for the journey, I really do appreciate your subscription, and I hope you get the most out of my content. So I thought it'd be fun to talk as a veteran about the new military enlistment age, more specifically the Army's new enlistment age. But before we get into all that, please help us reach the new goal. Yes, we hit 150. We can't stop there. I refuse to stop there. So hopefully you'll help me get to the next leg, 200. 200 is the goal. Let's see if I could do 200 before my birthday. That would be the perfect birthday present. 200 subscribers. August 9th. That is the goal. Let's see if we can do it. Anyways, into the content. The Army has raised the maximum enlistment age to 42 years old, and this has a lot of people kind of scratching their head like, is this smart? Is this an indicator that we're in it for the long haul, forever war question mark? I would say no, but it's not the best sign that I would like to see. And I'll explain why in a second after I read this. So, Military Times writes, in a sweeping change to its enlistment regulations, the Army has raised the maximum age for eligible recruits to 42, the service announced. Changes highlighted in the memo, which was distributed this week and will go into effect in April, also include the removal of previous enlistment obstacles for recruits who have a single marijuana or drug paraphernalia conviction. The announcement comes as the Army continues efforts to widen its recruiting pool after falling short of its regular Army enlistment goals in 2022 and 2023 before rebounding in 2024. The upper limit of the Army's previous allowable enlistment age was 35, but waivers were sometimes granted for older enlistees. So this isn't the first time that we've had someone that was older than 35 join the Army. But this is the first time that it is allowed on a blanket level. You're not going to need a chit. The Air Force and the Navy allow recruits over 40, while the Marine Corps caps enlistment at 28, but allows hopefuls who are 29 and over to request waivers. The average age of Army recruits is currently higher than previous years, with new recruits entering the service with an average of enlistment age of 22.7 according to Army data. That figure reflects the average age of active duty and reserve recruits so far in the fiscal year of 2026, may reflect a shift from recent decades where the average age was 21.7 in the 2000s and 21.1 in the 2010s, according to data provided by Madison Bronzo, the Army Recruiting Division's Chief of Media Relations. So, over time, recruitment has shifted a little bit to the right as far as age. And keep in mind, these are the average ages, right? This is the average slapdash in the middle. It doesn't mean that they're just getting a bunch of 21-year-olds. They're getting a lot of people from 18 to 29, 30, and some people even older out. But as it moves to the right, you got to move that limit a little bit. Army leaders say the change reflects how recruiters are increasingly seeking to reach a wider range of potential new service members. In another change that opens up the possibility of Army service to a wider pool, the Army announced it no longer requires a waiver for one conviction of possession of marijuana or one conviction of possession of drug paraphernalia. That's an interesting one. The change comes as more states legalize cannabis, even though its use remains prohibited for service members. Applicants with more serious drug-related offenses still need waivers. So, let me talk about what I like about this. Let me talk about what I don't like about this. I'm going to be honest. 40 years old is really fucking late. Really late to the party to be enlisting. Because the thing about enlisting is there are no shortcuts. You start off at the bottom of the totem pole. You will be doing bottom of the totem pole work. which is usually just more physically intense. It's more wearing on the body. I joined at like 18 years old, dude. Even I got a little banged up from the work. I can only imagine old man Rivers coming in and having to do the same stuff. Constantly on your knees on bare, well, I'm talking about my Navy perspective. I'm not too familiar with the lower enlisted experience of the Army, but like on your knees on metal, crawling into like awkward spaces, getting banged up, like these experiences will wear on you. A young buck can bounce back from that. A 42-year-old who has to do all this work and hope to rank up, I imagine it's going to have more wear and tear on the body. That would be my main concern. Secondly, there's a social aspect to this too, right? Like I said, I joined fairly young, and that isn't always the case for everybody. There's some older cats that join. In my boot camp division, there was a dude that was like 32 years old. Crazy. But what I'm trying to get at is that when you've had a certain amount of life experience, there's a certain amount of bullshit you don't take, and there's a certain amount of bullshit that just comes with being in the military. If you are 41 years old, but you are an E1, and your petty officer third class or petty officer second class is only 20 years old, guess what? Your age doesn't mean diddly, bro. I'm telling you to do this. I know my job. I don't care about what type of job you did before the Navy. I don't care about your previous experience and how you think things should go. The military has a very specific way of operating. If you wanted to be creative, you should have went to college. Like, you need to follow your orders. It's just a part of the job. And sometimes old dogs have tough times learning new tricks, especially when they don't respect the person that's training them. I've seen situations where you have to write up someone that's older than you, and you're trying to, guide them to get them back on the straight and narrow, and they take it as disrespect because, oh, who the hell is this kid telling me to yada yada? Oh, my kid's as old as you. Well, I'm not your kid. I'm your boss right now. So you gotta listen to what I say. You gotta nut up and shut up, do your job. That is one thing that I do worry about with older enlistees, being able to actually acclimate into it. When you're younger, you're impressionable. You're malleable. You could be shaped up into a great service member. If you wanted to do this whole, independence thing and complete autonomy of your work, you went the wrong route. That's just not the military, bro. So that's like my concerns. There's the physical aspect, there's the mental aspect. But let me talk about what I do like about this. I feel more and more there are a lot of young guys who went to college, couldn't get a job right after. They tried to do the career thing, they may have tried to do the entrepreneur thing. The military still being available as a way to set them up for the rest of their life is invaluable. There's so much good that the military will do for you so long as you do your part from within. I think it's one of the best things that a young man with no responsibilities can do with their life. And if you're a little bit older and you're looking to get a head start on maybe buying a house in the future, maybe you didn't go to college, maybe you did the trade thing for like 15 years and then your company got taken out through the market, and now you're looking for something new, the next chapter. I'm glad if the military could be that for you. So I do like the idea that, especially for young men, being able to get real control of your life through the military, I like that. If you're a little bit older and you still don't have a good grip on things, maybe the military can help you out. Just be sure you actually conform. You're actually living the service member life. You're not 40 years old John Stewart. You are 1 year old E3 Stewart, you know? So I do like that for people that are actually willing to conform to the military and make the best of it, and that could physically hack it. Let's talk about the other aspect of this, right? With the conviction waiver, I think that's a pretty good thing considering how, I don't want to say drug use, but substance use has evolved. Marijuana is becoming less and less of a criminal pastime because the thing before this wasn't the marijuana in and of itself. It's that you were willing to go through illicit means to obtain your marijuana. And that's funding gangs, that's funding people that sell stuff more than just weed. The actual paying into and facilitation of illicit activity is what the military was more against than the actual act of smoking weed, if that makes sense. So I think that's actually a step in the right direction. I I'm a little hesitant about making it where people could have cases of drug paraphernalia, because the thing is, drug paraphernalia is one of those catch-all statements, because it depends what we're talking about. If someone's convicted in possession of like a crack pipe but didn't test for crack, I don't know if I want them joining the military without a waiver. I'm be honest, like if you got caught with a bong meant for weed, but you didn't actually get caught with weed itself, and that was your drug paraphernalia charge, I mean, I don't really mind that all that much. I'm sure you learned your lesson. You're not going to do it in the military. Great. But if you get caught with a crack pipe, sorry, bro. That I know that's your one drug paraphernalia charge, but I'm just not down with it. You need a waiver. You need a background check. You need 3 letters of rec from me before I let you in my military, man. And of course, you really need to be careful with people that have serious drug related offenses. I knew a guy when I was in sub school before I wisened up, went to the surface fleet, and became a damage controlman. I knew a guy in sub school who was a former heroin addict, but he had gone to rehab, he had done all the work, and that's a very case by case acceptance. And I do think that waivers play a valuable role in that aspect, but I just don't want to see it go any further, right? Serious drug related offenses need to remain on a waiver basis, a very case by case selective basis. We're desperate for people, we're not that desperate. You know what I'm saying? So let's actually talk about what it looks like for a 40-year-old keeping up in the military. So first, I'm going to show you what I'm familiar with, the Navy standards. Right here, I have pulled up the PRT, the physical readiness test. This is the standards for men ages 40 to 44 at less than 5,000 feet altitude. Most Navy installations, you are less than 5,000 feet because you're at sea level, you know? So for ages 44 and under to 40, in order to just pass your physical readiness test, your 1.5 mile run, you need to get at least 15 minutes and 30 seconds, and that will land you probationary, meaning that you're gonna have to go to FET camp. It is a program called FEP, and it stands for Fitness Enhancement Program. Yeah, Fitness Enhancement Program, FEP. Me and my friends call it, the Fat Exercise Program, but it is good if you're in it. If you're in it, that means you're improving. And I can never knock someone improving themselves. For push-ups, you only need to do 24. For your forearm plank, 1 minute and 5 seconds. I think that's very reasonable, even for someone that's 44 years. I feel like strength is like one of the last things to go, right? Cardio might be a little bit harder as you get older, but I think that strength does carry on for a while if you've developed it in your younger years. Now, this age movement is more specific to the Army, so I have their standards pulled up as well and highlighted. So, in the Army, you need at least 60 points in every category to pass your physical readiness test. And what does that look like? Well, for the deadlift, if you're 42 to 46, the deadlift, you need to deadlift at least 140 pounds as a man. you need to be able to do at least 11 hand release push-ups. For the sprint and carry, you need to be able to complete it within 2 minutes and 45 seconds. For the plank, you need to be able to do that in at least 1 minute and 10 seconds. For the 2-mile run, you need to be able to do it in at least 22 minutes and 4 seconds. Shoot, man, you might be able to walk that, you know? You might be able to speed walk that. And then for the Army Fitness alternative events, where you don't have to run, there's a 2.5-mile walk, 31 minutes. There's the 12-kilometer bike, 26 minutes. The 1-kilometer swim, 30 minutes. And the 5-kilometer row, 30 minutes. I feel like all of that is fairly easy to accomplish. I'm not too worried about them actually passing the test. I'm more so concerned, are you able to actually do the job without sustaining injury? That's really where my concern is for these older cats. Now, I mentioned the Army because this is an Army-specific change. As I read in the article, the Air Force and the Navy, we already allow people over 40 to join. Here, I have updated from last year, so it's up to date for all the other branches other than the change to the Army. The age limits to join the military per branch, the Air Force, it is 17 to 42. The Army, this is outdated now, the current standard is 17 to 42. The Coast Guard is 17 to 41. The Marine Corps, while it says is 17 to 28, that's without waiver. They allow people as old as 35 to join, but you would have to get an age waiver, which is case-by-case basis. They can say no. The Navy, which is 17 to 41, and the Space Force, which is 17 to 42. So to anyone that's seeing this change and they're freaking out, I would just say hold your horses, man. It's really not all that crazy. It's really not even all that surprising. I think this was bound to happen eventually. That doesn't mean you're going to see a swath of 42-year-olds coming to enlist in the Army anytime soon. It just means that you might get a couple hundred across the country, and every man helps. I think that it's important that we really refill our human capital within the military after the Biden administration deficits. For those of you that weren't following, the military recruitment was really in the hole, like scary in the hole. Our operational readiness was in question from how little people we had joining the military. Super serious ordeal. I actually wrote my persuasive essay on bringing back military conscription based off of those numbers, saying that if we continue that trend, we're not even going to be able to sustain ongoing deployments. Now, would I want there to be a draft? No. Do I think that this is indicative of us preparing for a larger conflict? No. I think that the military has to be robust, it has to be capable and ready. And the vision that Trump has had for the military since his first administration was to have the largest and strongest military. We're not going to have an army larger than China's anytime soon. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't be trying to make it as large as possible. And I think this is part of that effort. Of course, I have my concerns, but ultimately, I'm not too concerned overall with this. This isn't something shocking or detrimental to the service. I think even the people that join that might be a bit older, as long as you pick your job correctly, might not even be an issue. But let me know what you guys think. How do you feel about the military now allowing people that are 36 to 42 to join the Army? Are you surprised by this? Are you shocked by this? Are you against it? Or are you like, we already allow people just as old to join the Navy and the Coast Guard and the Air Force and the Space Force? Really the only ones that haven't been doing this is the Marines, but the Marines are the Marines. Yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comment. Thank you for watching this video all the way through. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, share with a friend if you find it informative. Anyways, I'm Evan. This was a video, and I'm out. Peace.